So, hello. We're live apparently. It's me, Dro, your friendly neighborhood analyst, coming back to you again with another patch rundown for 7.4 that has just hit. This time actually on time. It only hit, 4 days ago. I'm sorry for the lack of content recently, but I'll be getting back on the wagon hopefully, and hopefully bringing more content to you guys and more VOD reviews, more videos like this, and also some more pre-prepared videos where I'll sit down and properly record my voice. This is just something that's easier to free flow, and that's what this is. So this is the state of competitive play in 7.4, where I'll be looking at general buffs and nerfs and what this means for every role and team compositions as they are. So, moving on to the buffs and nerfs first, we will have... There are 4 big nerfs in 7.4. Let me get them up here. So we have Corki, Jhin, Maokai, and Rise. Let me just go down them in order. I've got them here. So Corki's R, the missile barrage, is having its numbers toned down a little bit. The AD ratios of the base missiles and the flat damage of the missiles is being reduced. The normal missiles, that is, and the AP ratio. So it's just a flat damage nerf. And then on the big one, which is the third rocket, it slightly more damage coming from the big one with base damage and slightly less AP ratio, but the AD ratio isn't changed. And he's been given a like an Annie style bar that shows when he's got how many rockets he's got and if they're a big one or not. This is not going to shove him out of the meta. He's still really strong. It just tones down his damage a little bit, so he's not so abusive in lane. He will still be a very strong competitive pick due to his siege potential, his bully potential, and personally I think he's completely overpowered in the fact that he has effectively 4 spells and his passive is his ultimate. And he has a passive on top of that with splitting his damage. So he's a very unique champion in that regard, so they did a good job, but I just think the fact that he has like 4 base spells when everyone else has 3 is just really, really strong. And his ability to bully lanes is pretty strong. And yeah, I'll move on. I'll briefly touch on these because I will be talking about these more in the video. We have Jhin. His nerf is that his slow duration on his bullets on his R are reduced by 0.25 seconds, so from 0.27 to 0.5. Again, this is not going to knock him out the meta, but it is reducing his power just slightly, but the real problem isn't the slowing from his R, although that's nice of a nerf. Next up is Maokai. They're increasing the mana cost of his Q. So it's not 45 at every rank, it's 45 plus 5 per rank, so it goes from 45 to 65. Again, this isn't going to push, and also, sorry, the sapling no longer deals damage when they land. This basically isn't going to push him out of the meta the same as the other 2, they're just looking to tone down his laning a little bit, so he's not so abusive in lane when he gets a mana crystal, a sapphire crystal, sorry. Again, a good change. He's just strong at the moment, and this just adds a bit more risk reward into using Maokai in the top lane, which is always good. And then Rise, they're just nerfing the Q bonus damage against a target on every rank except for the first one. So it's down 5, then 10, then 15, then 20. If that makes sense. So it goes 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 instead of going 40, 55, 70, 85, 100. So again, just slightly toning it down. Not massive nerfs, just slightly toning down these meta champions. And the only buff champion, which is something that I'm going to touch upon later, is Cho'Gath. So I'm going to talk about Cho'Gath later. You guys can just put that into your head for a little bit, and I will talk about him later. So the next one is the top lane. So in 7.4, the top lane picks for me are Camille, Shen, Maokai, Poppy, Nautilus, Gragas. They're the top tier picks. I think we're reverting back to a tank meta. I will have a video about why this is more in another video that I want to produce later in the week, so stay tuned for that. But the second tier picks for me are Jace, Gangplank and Rumble, the more carry orientated champions that do well into tank lanes. But for me, with team compositions as they are, with the kind of carry style coming out of the jungle or an Ivan and such, the tanks are just really, really needed in these team comps with the way that the meta is very focused around diving, around team fights, and you need a tank in those situations. And I think tanks are now just up. And the reason why Camille's top is because Camille lanes into them all extremely well. Bar Shen, she has a bit of a tough time, but she's just ridiculously bonkers. So yeah, that's the reason she's there. And the reason I've picked some of these more than other ones, Shen, just again ridiculously strong, his map pressure and everything. Maokai, again, if I touched upon it before, he's probably just the best tank in the game, like in just tanking things. And then the rest of them, the Gragas is a new addition. Gragas is just very, very good at dueling tanks as a tank. He falls off a bit in utility in the late game. Due to his his tankiness is good in the late game, but he's not the kind of tank like a Nautilus. Like, he can't just get to the back line as easily, and his ult nerf, it was very impactful. He's definitely more of a mid-game tank, and you want to bully a tank lane more than anything. But again, he's not bad in the late game, but he's not a Poppy or a Maokai, put it that way. And Nautilus, yeah, he's just Nautilus. He's just great with Courage of the Colossus, great tanky, great wave clear, everything. And then the best of the worst, which is not the worst, but Jace, strong with lethality, does well into certain tank matchups. Bar Shen and Poppy, I'd say. Gangplank, again, just does really well into Shen and things. Just really great, stupidly strong pick that people sleep on, I think, a little bit. And Rumble just does well into tanks. And is a good bruiser. So that's why they're there. So moving into the jungle. Kha'Zix, Ivan, Graves, and Elise. Elise has snuck in here in my top tier. Looking at IEM, her role in, I think the jungle's definitely going towards more of a more ganking orientation, more focused around the lanes again than it was. But then again, that's a certain style that's creeping in that I think, at least, get it. But I definitely feel that she has a place, and she's very strong at what she does, especially with these AD champions coming in. If you can supplement an AD mid laner with the AP Elise and maybe an AP support, I think you'll be doing all right in terms of team composition. The only problem I find with Elise is she's very feast or famine, but I think if teams can play around her strengths well, with heavy CC lanes, just killing someone with her early game pressure, I think she does very well. But Kha'Zix for me is number one. He's like an Elise on steroids, especially into the late game. He just picks off people so well in team fights and in skirmishes. And if you want to skirmish, Kha'Zix is your boy, basically. He is so strong. Ivan brings something new. Again, I'm going to talk about Ivan. He just keeps bringing something new into the jungle. His counter jungling is insane. So I'm going to take a drink of water. And the way in which he can nullify a lot of things is very strong. And also the way in which he kind of supplements a team composition's support he needs. If you pick something like a Malzahar or a Zyra that go these damage routes, he can be that support. He can be that redemption builder. He can be that locket builder, which just adds so much to a team fight. And then third pick is Graves. Graves is just strong. I think there's not much more to say about it. But again, he has to be picked into a certain team comp. You need that CC in the lanes. You need a support. He's going to be another carry. And unless your team comp is built around that, he's not going to be strong. Very good into team fights. Very good into skirmishing. Just a great all-round champion. And then move down to my second tier is Rengar and Rumble. I think Rumble still has a place, especially into AD and poke comps. I think he's very good into. He provides the AP damage that maybe some AD pick comps and poke comps have lacking. They lack the AP. And he's also great disengage or engage for a poke comp. You can zone people off a tower with his ultimate. He's just a great pick. And Rengar, for me, has fallen way, way down. We've seen in IEM that unless you get ahead, unless you pick a team around them, he's not that great. So he's fallen down for me. I think Elise has taken the spot as kind of like a hunter in the jungle. And I'd love to see what happens with Elise, personally. I'll talk more about what she fits into later. So we're going to the mid lane. Mid lane's the biggest one. There's not much change here from my last video. LeBlanc is just overpowered, although in the next patch she will be falling down because of her nerfs. But for now, she is still ridiculously overpowered. And the only real pick I've seen do well into her is Rise. But again, well, and Cassadin, but I mean, that's still 50-50 in my opinion. Then we have Corki. Even with the nerfs, he's still just strong in bringing that AP siege damage that a lot of these champions don't have. He does bring that AP siege that a lot of champions just are lacking. And his overall bully potential in lane is very strong against these mid lane mages. Rise, Orianna, for me, are almost one and the same in terms of power level. They're just a great kind of pickle. They're just strong. They do well into most matchups. They're just great. Jace, again, is then the next in the high tier list. This is like the A and the B tier for me. Jace is just very strong with his flexibility in a pick ban and also his just innate strength with lethality. And fitting into a poke comp with a Varus or something. Then on the next tier, I think these are not all of them are sleeper picks. I'd say Syndra isn't a sleeper pick. She's just a strong pick in certain matchups. But for me, Aurelion Sol, Talia are sleeper picks. I think they're very strong into certain matchups and are not being utilised properly by teams. Their potential to move across the map with a Shen or something is very, very underrated, except for teams in NA and Korea, I think. Especially EU and Taiwanese teams don't seem to be picking up on it, and it's something that I think they should be. Zed, Cassiopeia, just strong picks into certain matchups. Strong, in certain ways. Cassiopeia doing very well into Corki, of course. So, moving on to the AD carry, the new addition here is Sivir. It's something that I've been saying for a while, is the push potential. I think Sivir comps are back as a certain type of pickup you can do. Oh, sorry there. But still, Varus, Jhin, strongest for me. Miss Fortune, again, I think she's not being utilised properly, but I think she is probably one of the strongest AD carries at the moment. Then Ashe, then Sivir. That's kind of interchangeable. It really depends on what your team wants to play. But again, I don't like Caitlyn. I don't think she brings enough to the team comps. I don't think she provides any utility. And for me, AD carries at the moment are just utility bots with a lot of damage. So, support. I don't think, personally, that support has changed that much. I think the nerfs to Zyra and Malzahar were needed because their power was too strong, but now you can let them go down the back, pick and ban a little bit. You can pick something else if your team needs it. They're not like first pick worthy, but they are strong. The utility, the damage they provide is very strong. And then for me, Karma is the best of the utility supports, and I think Brand is going to come back in a big way. I think especially into something like a Zyra, well, maybe not Zyra, but definitely if they end up picking a team fight comp and they don't, like something like a Tahm Kench, you can definitely put Brand into that. Something more utility based, Brand could do very well into team fighty, and he has great shove to boot. And then the B tier for me, Tahm Kench, Lulu and Nami. Tahm Kench is great into picks, certain team comps, especially pick orientated ones. He's just very, very strong. He just does amazing things with the way in which he can, bring that uniqueness of being able to basically be a vessel for a carry during a pick comp to obliterate them basically and just nullify their whole comp. Lulu does kind of the same thing, but with buffing the AD carry and is great into assassins. So if they're getting picked, Lulu is a great pick and does well into Malzahar and Zyra. And Nami, I think she's, again, one of these picks that people don't really realise how strong she is, but she's not great at anything in particular. So she's just a great kind of pickle. So these are all the picks, and now I want to talk about, if it would let me, the 3 types of compositions that I think we'll be starting to see moving into the next phase of the season. And so the top one here is a Sivir comp. This is really, really standard. This is basically want to run at you sort of team comps, pick comps mixed with a bit of dive potential. So these champions here, I feel, do... the reason I've picked them is that they're just... You can have other things as well, but for me this is just the stereotypical kind of Sivir comp that you could see in a draft. Sivir Maokai is an absolutely stupidly strong rotation. The ability that Sivir gives Maokai to dive into the back line, do his thing, disrupt everything is very, very strong. The ability that she gives Malzahar here to move forward and get a pick is again very, very strong. He usually relies on his flash, but if you can chase someone, well, you don't need your flash, you can use that to get away afterwards. Same with Oriana, you can just move her so she can get into position, and also the Oriana ball supplements the Sivir speed up. And the Kha'Zix as well, just allowing him to get into the back line and dealing his stuff. The reason I've picked the Malzahar with the Sivir instead of something maybe a little bit more disengagey is they want to run at you first and foremost, but also the Malzahar will supplement the Sivir's kind of lane pressure where she might be a bit low on range. Malzahar can supplement this, he can poke, he can send out his Voidlings and allow Sivir to shove the lane and get that lane priority that's so desperately needed in this meta. The next up is a siege comp. This is Jace in the top lane, Ivan, Corki, Varus and Tahm Kench. Again, the 3 carries here are very, very poke orientated. They want to get you to a tower and they want to throw things at you. This can be supplemented with just having Corki Varus and then maybe having a supporty support, maybe something in the jungle like a Rumble just to provide some CC in zone, and then maybe, you know, a Shen in a top lane or something tank orientated like a Gragas, you know, something with CC and tankiness. This can also work, but the Tahm Kench is here just to protect these carries, to say no, we're moving away, we're gonna rotate. It's good for rotations, it's good for supplementary supportness and giving that little bit of front line that the team needs. And Ivan again just to provide more of that more kind of second line peel. These comps are very, very strong at the moment due to the power of Corki. If Corki wasn't able to provide that amount of AP poke into a tower and Triforce build, I don't think these comps would be so prevalent. I think Corki is the reason these comps are very prevalent. And I think unless we see a change away from that or some AP picks coming in, so Jace and things can go into the mid lane, I think we'll continue to see these sort of picks. And then the last one is a high pressure kind of thing. These lanes are going to shove in. They're going to, apart from the Shen, but he has pressure in other lanes. And this is definitely a lane that's going to get ahead through snowballing mid and bot lane. Especially the Karma is going to shove that bot lane out. The Rise is going to do well into the mid lane and shove out. The Elise is going to roam around this map and it's going to pressure. And they're going to look for picks. They're going to look for just getting men advantage on towers and just looking to make a pick, convert into a tower. They have very good siege. They have very good team fighting. They have very good skirmishing. And I think this is something we're going to start seeing more with the prevalence of Elise. So they're the team comps that I think are going to be prevalent. And lastly, I want to talk about our big boy Cho'Gath. So his buffs were quite interesting. And basically, he can't lose stacks of his feast. It now stacks infinitely only after 5 stacks being used on minions and monsters. And it basically it's lowering the amount of AP ratio it has on the feast, but increasing the amount it does by health that he has. So he gets more health. He gets less health per stack, but he gets more. But the damage that comes out is actually coming from health. Now, I think this is pretty big because, and also I think it's getting a larger range. Basically, what this means is Cho'Gath is going to be an immense jungler if it works out the way I think it will, with him being kind of a farm-orientated jungler, moving around these objectives, maybe into something like an Ivan or something. His objective control is probably going to be better than a Nunu's. I think level 6 he can do 1k, was it 1k true damage or was I thinking of something else? But he can do a lot of true damage and eat a dragon, and he is going to get ridiculously tanky if you can eat people with his ult. His CC he brings is always good. His silence is something that is very, very underrated. He has a very, very long silence, and I think especially into certain picks that rely on their spells, rely on kind of out-sustaining opponents and stuff. I think he could do well into the top lane meta with the tanks, but I think definitely he could come into the jungle, into something like an Ivan. I think he might be a pick to watch out for. But again, I don't know. These are just speculations, but this is something that my gut tells me, especially with that 10% damage coming on, 10% health damage coming on his ult. I think it's, I think it's pretty good. I could see it working. I really could. So that's everything for today. Thank you very much for watching. I will have more content, hopefully some more VOD reviews coming up. Please like, subscribe and share the video, and yeah, follow me on social media, and thanks for watching.